Today we're talking about all things mesalazine. What is it? My experiences with it? What about side effects and all those sort of things? And should you ultimately try it for your inflammatory bowel disease? My name's Jacob and I've been living with ulcerative colitis for over 10 years. And over that time, the majority of it was spent taking mesalazine because it's one of the safest medications that you can be prescribed for. It's very commonly used. And I was on it for a very long time. So let's start off by talking about what is it. So the first thing to note is that it is an NSAID. So that is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. That's right, so there's no steroids in it. And it's pretty simple to take. It's like taking ibuprofen, but for your gut. And I've got some right here. So this is Pentasa, and this is what the majority of the time that I spent taking. And this is a rectal foam. So this is an enema. This is by Salafalk, but ultimately they are all mesalazine. And when you're taking a non-steroid anti-inflammatory, it's pretty simple to use. You just take it. It might be in the form of a pill. The main way that I took it was in these sachets, and they've got granules in them, slow release granules. And what I would do is rip these open, knock them on the back of my tongue, down it with some water. And it's been a few years since I've taken this now because I'm not on these medications anymore. I've still got them knocking about, but it kind of feels natural to just go. For so many years I did it, and they're like kind of like little sugar packets. And when we're talking about the enema, it comes in a little packet. Is this one open? Well, it's open now. Completely unused. This is just here if I ever feel like I need to use it. In fact, we've got the leaflet here. We can take a look at the list of listed side effects later there. So it just comes with this little nozzle gun. You hold it upside down when you're actually going to use it. You've got individual nozzles here ready to be inserted. And you've got little bags for disposing of those nozzles in a hygienic way. And that's about it. And it does come in other forms. I've seen people taking them in big pills. Granules is just what I was given because they're slow release and I was not absorbing things properly. So the granules can be really handy for that. So what about dosing? Well, my dose over this time was 4 grams. That's quite a high dose. Apparently, 5 grams is the maximum. 5G equals max. Allegedly, that's the maximum amount that you're safely allowed to take. So I was well within that maximum. 4 grams, 2 grams in each one of those sachets. Some people might just be a 1 gram or taking 2 grams overall, split across a couple of pills. The enema typically was a 1 gram pump. So one actuation of the pump is 1 gram of mesalazine. Now, the differences between the pills, the slow release granules, and the foam enema. Pills, just generic pills, take them as you would typical paracetamol or whatever that is. They'll be digested and the medication would make its way through your body and hopefully reduce the inflammation in the appropriate area. With the slow release granules, the idea behind that it won't release. This is going to be a really crudely drawn bow here. It won't release until it reaches the bow, for me in that case, because it was for my ulcerative colitis. These are the pills, these are the granules, and they're being released, all of this healing power here. That was the idea anyway. Did it play out like that? Not every time. And with I'll get back more on that later, but with the foam enema, it's very much the same idea. This is your butthole here, and you're squirting the foam up, and it gets coated on the side here, and it promotes its medicinal effects here to fight off whatever inflammation might be here. Might be some red bits here. And it's been coated in foam, and the medication can get to where it needs to be. And that way, it doesn't need to be processed throughout your whole body. The foam gets to where it needs to be. And I will talk about its effectiveness after I go back to the granules. When I said it doesn't always happen in the way that it was supposed to, when I was in a flare with my ulcerative colitis, oftentimes I would use the toilet and I would see the granules have actually passed right through me. And I don't know if it's just my body wasn't absorbing things as well as it should, or if I'm just particularly quick at getting food in and dumping it back out. Maybe I was just processing everything too fast and granules were being found out of the bowel. So just went completely through me. Not what you want. With the enema, it gets to exactly where it needs to be. And common problems with that is actually holding it in. You've inserted some liquid up your butt and it feels very awkward. So let's get into that. First of all, getting the nozzle up there. That can be a bit of a challenge in itself. You'll learn to find the position that aids that insertion. Luckily for me, the brands that made my Mesalazine enemas, Salafalk, they're very pliable, soft, and came pre-lubricated. Very important factors when trying to put something up your bum that oftentimes you might not think about until it comes time to actually trying that. Luckily for that Salafalk, very good company. I really appreciated their enemas because I've used other enemas that don't have those features and they are a pain. Real pain in the butt. So once you've got the medicine squirted up your bum, it can be a challenge to hold it up there. But like I said, it was a foam enema, not a liquid. So foam is a little bit easier to hold inside of yourself because it doesn't feel like such a burden inside of you. It's not so heavy and it's not liquid, so it doesn't immediately feel like you need to evacuate it out of you. So I did really also appreciate the fact that it was a foam and it coats the lining of the bowel and then sort of turns into a liquid later. And you're supposed to leave it in there and go to sleep with it up there. So the main thing that I was told when I was given Mesalazine was that you just stay hydrated. In the same way that you really should stay hydrated when you take ibuprofen, you need to be hydrated when you take Mesalazine. Otherwise it can put unnecessary strain on your organs, because if you are leaving it in there and it's not being flushed out properly, bad things can happen. So anyway, you just drink water. Anyway, it didn't even cross my mind really over the years and years that I took it. It wasn't much of a problem. What about side effects? Well, it's safe to say I really didn't get any side effects in the slightest. And what I had been told, a lot of people worry about hair loss in particular with Mesalazine. And I'm happy to report, other than the typical male pattern baldness that is slowly happening to me, there was no hair loss that I can report of. So I'm very happy to say that. And I was mildly worried about it when I first got into it, but after a while of taking the medication, like I said, the Pentasa sachets in particular was just like knocking back a sugar packet first thing in the morning. Completely fine. No side effects to report. And I'm very pleased to report that. Let's have a look at the side effects list of the enema. Since I have it here, we might as well have a look. So common. There's only one side effect that's common. Abdominal discomfort. Well, if you're taking the enema, that's to be expected. 1 in 10 people will find it uncomfortable. Uncommon side effects. Anal discomfort, irritation, and painful urgent need to empty the bowels. Again, that could be attributed to just having an enema and it feeling horrible. And now we're getting into the rare stages here, which is the typical things you see on any medication. All sorts of headaches, chest pains, breathless, all that nonsense. Very rare. And pretty much every medication you read will pretty much have the same list of side effects. Now, there is one here that I did get. Flatulence. And it's funny that it says that it's rare here, because when you've used a compressed can of foam and put it up your bum, some air is inevitably going to be in there. And that air's got one way to come back out. You need to put it out your bum. So gas is something that will happen. And here we go. So very rare. hair loss and the development of baldness. So the thing is, some people will experience some of these side effects, and hair loss is one of them. So, sorry, the last side effect here, reversible decrease in semen production. Not heard of that one before. Anyway, luckily for me, I didn't experience those. And I don't know if I ever experienced reduced semen production. I never got my semen tested. That's got me a bit curious now. So I want to talk a bit more about the enema, because in particular, that's one that sticks out in my mind as memorable. There's a certain smell that comes from the evacuation of the enema. It smells strange. It smells really, really weird. The medication stinks. And when it's been in your bum for a little bit and it comes out, it does leave a very particular smell, which is very hard to explain. Not a pleasant smell in the slightest. And it's often the very first thing that you're going to want to deal with in the morning, running to the loo and getting that medication out of you. It's not a pleasant experience, but luckily, there's not much else to report there. Praise the Lord, you don't want to experience anything else. How effective was it in treating my ulcerative colitis anyway? That's the main thing that we should be thinking about. Well, I do have quite a lot to say on that. And the fact is, I don't really know how much it really helped me at all. So, treating flares. Let's write this down. So the first thing I noticed, along with not many side effects, was I'm not really sure how much the granules in particular actually did anything in the slightest. Not much change. So when I would take the Mesalazine, I would just take it on a daily basis, whether I was flaring or not, as sort of a maintenance medication. But every time I entered a flare, which did come about at least once or twice a year, I would obviously continue to take the Mesalazine. And it just really would not change my situation very much. The granules felt like they really didn't do anything the whole time that I was on them. It almost felt like that I was unmedicated. Especially when it came to the fact that I saw granules pass through me when I went to the bathroom. And it would often lead to me having to try other medications, such as steroids, such as the foam enema, such as a prednisolone enema. And this is a liquid enema. That one was horrible. And ultimately, it led to me being on biological drugs and immunosuppressants because it just didn't do much for me. Now, the enema, I'm happy to say, did have an effect temporarily. What do I mean by that? So when we're talking about the enema, so this is the granules. Now let's talk about the enema. So this is something I would take. So this would, just to clarify with the granules, this would be a maintenance drug. I'm going to write maintenance med. Enema, emergency med. So I only took the foam enema with Mesalazine when I was actually in an active flare. I was bleeding, I had abdominal pain, I had mucus, all the typical signs of an ulcerative colitis flare. I took the enema. And for the first sort of 3 or 4 times that I took it, it brought me out of the flare. Brought out of flare. So that's fantastic. But what happened? Well, its ability to take me out of that flare waned. So it reduced effectiveness over time. Effectiveness over time. Which was rather frustrating, which led to me trying other medications. Now, it would get to the point where I would be, say I was on the steroids, I would then also back that up with the foam enema to just double down on medications to try and get me out of that flare. I tried everything I could to get out of that flare as fast as possible. And the enemas was the key for quite a long time until it wasn't. Granules. I don't really know how effective they were. And it does make me feel a bit sad about all the years I spent taking them. Was that pointless, and should I have just got on biologics sooner? Would I be in a better health state? I must have caused quite a bit of damage to my bowel going through so many years of on and off flares before I found a better medication. So my overall sort of review and thoughts of Mesalazine is, if it does bring you out of a flare, then take full advantage of it, because it's a medication with hardly any side effects. And I would say that if we were grading strengths of drugs, say you've got biologics up at a 10, and this is the scale, and then you've got a 3 down here, Mesalazine is here. Mesalazine, there's not many side effects to really be concerned about with Mesalazine. It's a pretty safe medication. I felt perfectly safe to take it long term, other than the fact it wasn't really working for me. So I would say if you're coming up with the choice, you're being given the choice, do you want to try Mesalazine? I'd say it's 100% worth giving it a go, because there's not really anything to lose in trying it and finding out that it might work for you. So I would give this a full-blown effort. Try the granules. Try whatever your local healthcare provider has available to them, like the pills. Whatever it is, try the Mesalazine and see if it does something for you. But if it doesn't, try the Mesalazine enema, because I found this to be much more effective. This was very effective. It goes to where the flare is. It goes to right to the point of the inflammation. It coats it in the foam. There's even less chance of side effects because it's not passing through your whole body, your whole bodily digestive system. It's just going straight to where it needs to be. And I will always rather take a medication, almost like a topical medication, that goes right where it needs to be and it's only there, over something that has to go through my whole digestive system, because just so much less risk of side effects. It goes to it does what you want, where you want it to be. But if this doesn't start working for you, then the only thing I can say is other medications are available, and Mesalazine is not the one that you're looking for. So overall, very safe drug. Sometimes works, potentially, might work for you, requires experimentation, but there is hope if it doesn't work for you. So if you'd like to learn more about other IBD medications, I have done other videos on that topic, but if you have a particular medication that you'd like me to talk about, leave a comment down below, or any other topic on inflammatory bowel disease, because I just love standing here and talking. So leave a comment down below and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.